Hello, I'm Dr. Anuradha, fertility specialist from Anu Test Baby Center, Hyderabad. On this occasion of World IVF Day, we as a team of Anu Test Baby Center want to inform some basics of IVF, its outcome, and recent advances. 42 years ago, on the 25th of July, 1978, Louis Brown, the first IVF baby of the world, was born. This was one of the greatest achievements in the treatment of infertility. To mark this greatest innovation in the field of reproductive medicine, this day, 25th July, is celebrated as World IVF Day. This is a result of years of effort and scientific research put in by pioneers Dr. Robert Edward and Dr. Patrick Steptoe. They are remembered as father of IVF because their invention has given the most successful treatment in the treatment of infertility. We were fortunate and honored to have Dr. Robert Edward with us in 2002 and who could actually spend the whole day with us in the clinic. And he was awarded with a Nobel Prize, as we all know later. We started IVF unit in 1994 in Hyderabad in collaboration with Midland Fertility Services from England. I'm very happy to say that the first IVF baby of combined state of Andhra Pradesh was from this unit in 1995. In the last 27 years, we ourselves have witnessed the evolution in IVF. Those were the days where there were so many difficulties. We had to procure our media, our equipment, the drugs, all the consumables. It was so tough. We had to bring them all over ourselves from different countries. The hormones, which were to be given for stimulation of the ovaries, they were extracted from urine of menopausal women. Nowadays, there is so much of refinement in the drugs. They're highly purified, they're recombinant, which have improved the safety and efficacy, and the drug-related risks also have come down tremendously. The success rates in IVF, which was about 10 to 15% per cycle in those days, have improved to almost 30 to 40%. Most importantly, the social stigma related to infertility is comparatively less now. Those days, men either did not come to the clinic, or if they came, they were either hiding under the tree or behind the walls. Now, because of the education, because of the media, the awareness, we all know that it's not just a woman's fault. 30% of the times, it's because of the male factor. 30%, there is a subtle defect in either of the couple. And it's a defect from both the partners most often than just blaming a woman. In early days of IVF, even couple did not want to disclose that this is a baby born through IVF. But now we are happy to see a second generation in our clinic. We can see the IVF babies which were born at that time are bringing their baby who was conceived naturally, and we can see two generations, and they're so forward coming to us showing their babies after such a long time. So we know that stress has come down and the awareness has increased. They're more open for treatments now. So the times have changed and there are more couples coming forward for the treatments of IVF. Though the basics of doing IVF remains the same, over nearly 4 decades, the technique has evolved and it has become more streamlined. Dr. Sophia would like to explain us about what is the basic of IVF and when is it actually done.
Patient with bilateral tubal block who conceived. Nowadays, there are many indications for an IVF, like elderly age of a woman, bilateral tubal block, low ovarian reserve or low number of eggs in the ovary. Couple who has tried many simpler treatments like IUI with ovulation induction and natural cycles but have not conceived. Endometriosis, PCO, which is very common and not responding to routine treatment. Male factors like low sperm count or low motility is also one of the reasons for IVF. There are some couples in whom everything seems to be fine, but still they do not conceive. This is known as unexplained infertility. IVF is a solution for such couples too. In IVF, hormonal injections are given to increase the size of the follicles which contain the egg. When the follicles are found to be an appropriate size, the eggs are taken out from the follicles or the ovaries, and in the lab, they are mixed with the husband's sample or the husband's sperm to prepare an embryo. This embryo cannot survive for a long time in the lab. It has to be transferred to a more safe and secure place, like the womb of the mother, the womb or uterus of the mother, where it grows into a baby. Therefore, test tube baby doesn't mean that the baby is formed in the lab. Now, Dr. Madhushri will elaborate on the IVF procedure and how recovery of eggs is done.
Thank you, Sophie. So once the patient is posted for oocyte recovery, she'll be started on injections which will last for about 8 to 10 days or until the time the follicle reaches an adequate diameter, at which point we give her a trigger injection which is meant for maturation of the egg. So following 34 to 36 hours after the trigger, we plan her for egg recovery. Egg recovery in those days was done laparoscopically, which needed a minor incision, and it's a minor surgical procedure. But of late, with the advent of transvaginal ultrasound, things have become much easier, simpler, and patient-friendly. In fact, we do it under sedation, and most of the times we keep talking to the patient too throughout the procedure. So it's a patient-friendly procedure. Following the oocyte recovery, like the follicles so developed with injections are aspirated with the help of a fine needle which is inserted with the help of a guide attached to the probe of the transvaginal scan. So the follicular fluid thus aspirated is sent immediately to the lab which is adjacent to the recovery room under controlled temperature and is examined under the microscope by the embryologist. And once the embryologist gives a nod that there is an egg present within, we'll move on to the next developed follicle, and process goes on and on till all the follicles which are developed are aspirated fully. Now it's over to the embryologist to say what he does with the eggs so transferred. Over to Dr. Prasad.
And graded them and mix with husband's sperm. Usually, we mix nearly 5,000 sperms for each egg. The eggs are incubated along with the culture medium in CO2 incubator. CO2 incubator mimics the human body temperature, and the medium provides required nourishment to the embryos. The resumed embryos are transferred on day 3 or day 5. We try to help the man with the low sperm count through an XC procedure. The XC procedure is nothing but the intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Here, interestingly, we use a needle which is equivalent to a hair size diameter. When there is no sperm, we try to help the patient. We try to extract the sperms from epididymis or testis, which will be matured and frozen for future IVF cycles. Even few sperms we can do an IVF and through the help of XC procedure. Recently, there was a patient who had a frozen embryo transfer who succeeded in the same cycle, but the embryos were frozen, which were 18 years back. Generally, the excess embryos will be frozen in the same cycle. If the patient conceives in the same cycle, the rest of the embryos are used for the second issue in the later on coming years. If patient is not succeeding in cycle, the frozen embryos are used the following cycles. There are days when there is no tube or no consumables or no medium when we started in 1995. Still, I remember we used to make our own media. To test that media, we used to try on sheep oocytes where we used to go to slaughterhouses in midnight and collect them. But nowadays, the things are quite different. Name anything if they are available on one phone call. Vitrification is advanced procedure which helps in better survival rate and better embryo success rate, survival rate and better IVF success rate. My Dr. Jabin will take over regarding the IVF success rates.
But improvement in IVF procedures due to advanced techniques and treatments, the success is 30 to 40% per cycle all over the world. Age is a very important factor. Above 35, the success rates are lower, and at the age of 40, the chances are only 10% per cycle. But most couples conceive if try more number of cycles. By the end of 3 to 4 cycles, we expect 80 to 90% conceives. To improve the pregnancy rates, there are some add-ons which are included in IVF procedures. Let's see what is the opinion of Dr. Zareen on add-ons in IVF.
Procedure which are added to IVF treatment to improve chances of success, they are called add-ons. It includes clinically usage of few drugs, endometrial scratch and ERA. In the laboratory, using of embryo glue, doing a co-culture and thinning of zona of embryos, also called as assisted hatching. Time-lapse imaging of embryos and PGS can also be done. Add-ons is an extra procedure which will add extra cost to the patient. Add-ons may have little or no medical evidence. It has to be used only when it is required. If all does not work in IVF treatment, then what are the other options Dr. Pratibha will enumerate?
Successful. If the IVF is not successful in a routine procedure, then sometimes the alternate options like a third party reproduction is also thought of. Third party reproduction means either usage of a donor egg, a donor sperm, or a donor embryo, or placement of the donor embryo or a donor oocyte into a surrogate. The main advantage of using a donor oocyte is that at least the baby is going in the mother's womb, and at least the mother can have a feel of the motherhood. And if it is a surrogacy, at least they have a genetic element which is there for the parents. And maybe sometimes it is easier than an adoption. So third party reproduction by usage of a donor egg or a donor embryo, donor sperm, or a surrogacy comes into play when the rest of the treatments, standard treatments in IVF, do not work. Now Dr. Sujata will take over.
Procedure where we freeze the women's eggs. Why do we need to freeze eggs? Freezing eggs is done in two conditions. One is social freezing or elective freezing. The second one is in medical conditions. Social freezing. Nowadays, younger women, those who are pursuing their careers and studying, they want to freeze their eggs and use it later on at a later date. Those who want to plan their pregnancy at a later date will freeze their eggs and use it later on. The second one is regarding medical conditions. Some of young cancer survivors, before undergoing surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy, wants to freeze their eggs and use it later on after the treatments, after cancer treatments. The egg freezing is done to preserve their fertility. The procedure success rates, chances of live birth rates using frozen eggs depending on the age of the women when she freezes her eggs. Around 10 to 14% success rates if the eggs are frozen at 40 years of age. If the eggs are frozen at younger age, such as around 25 years, the success rates would be around 30%. With, with all these advanced techniques, let's see how many IVF babies all around the world. Over to Dr. Ekta about the statistics.
140 million babies are born in the whole world every year, and nearly 1 million babies are through IVF. More than 8 million babies are born from IVF since the world's first in 1978. We have started with 15 to 20% of success rates. Now it's 40%, which is the wide. So imagine how many babies our unit has delivered till date. We have been doing IVF cycles every year. Good information, and there is increase in the need for IVF. What do you think? Where does the future of IVF lie? The future is in generating the gametes, that is eggs and sperm stem cells.
Sujata? Madhusri? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Sujata, maybe you can talk regarding the safety procedures. Or Dr. Prasad, maybe you can talk about the PGT and other advances in IVF.
Yeah. Today's present world, PGT happens to be one of the advanced procedures. Pre-implantation genetic screening test is known as PGT, and it is widely known and widely accepted procedures that they are doing in most of the labs throughout the world. Embryos are grown till the blastocyst, and few of the cells are aspirated from the embryo and sent for genetic screening. And the embryos are frozen, and we will be waiting till we get the genetic report. PGT results helps in choosing embryo which improves success rates and eliminates recurrent miscarriages. This is more suitable for a woman with advanced maternal age and a couple with genetic abnormalities. Usually, the couple should have more number of embryos to opt this procedure. Now, Dr. Madhusri will explain some more advanced procedures in IVF.
Yeah, ovarian regeneration. Yeah, you have heard it right. So this is mainly intended in patients who are not able to produce eggs to conceive naturally or with assisted reproductive techniques. So this is a boon for patients with low egg counts. It is done wherein we inject PRP, the so-called platelet-rich plasma, into the ovary of the woman with low egg count under transvaginal ultrasound guidance, and this is also done under sedation. It's similar to the oocyte recovery procedure. So once the PRP is injected into the ovary, the PRP being rich in growth factors will activate the primitive egg cells and thereby increasing or bettering the ovarian reserve or the egg count. Once the PRP injected into the ovary, there is a gap of about 2 to 3 months, after which we will subject her to stimulation and then with a better recovery rate than before the PRP. In fact, PRP has its application in infertility, not only with regard to ovarian regeneration, but also in patients with thin endometrium, where it is used for endometrial betterment. In our practice, it is still in the very nascent stage, but it is slowly catching up. In our center, in our experience at our center, actually we had quite good results, encouraging results with ovarian PRP when compared with endometrial PRP. In fact, we had a patient who underwent PRP, and during the gap period, she conceived, much to our pleasant surprise. And then she's done the viability scan, and we are very, very happy that we have already referred her for further antenatal follow-ups to other centers. So let's, apart from all this, we have still more advanced things going on in with regard to eggs, and that will be actually briefed to you by Dr. Sujata. Over to Dr. Sujata.
There are alternate options available, also called as third-party reproduction. What does this actually mean? It involves a third person other than the couple to help them in the treatment of infertility. But this third-party involvement is only limited to the reproductive process and does not extend into raising of the child. These include an egg donor, a sperm donor, an embryo donor, or surrogacy. A donor, but why? People may think. But in certain situations, if either of the couple have some genetic or hereditary problems and there is obvious risk that could be carried to the next generation, then the option of an egg donor or a sperm donor is indeed a blessing for the couple, and the woman can still enjoy the feel of motherhood. The egg donor could be a known person from the family or from outside. Now moving on to surrogacy. What does this actually mean? It refers to an agreement with a woman who's a third person and carries a pregnancy for another couple. Like a woman who has serious problems and a pregnancy is life-threatening for her, then in such situations, the concept of surrogacy will help the couple who are genetically and biologically related to the child. Even though these alternate options are used, the success still remains 40 to 45. Now, there are more advanced IVF which are coming forward. Over to you.
If Dr. Sujana is with us, maybe she can talk about the safety aspects of IVF. The treatments have become much safer as compared to what it was before. There are high risks associated with drugs like hyperstimulation syndrome, multiple pregnancy. We could see triplets, twins all around in those days when we used to transfer even 2 or 3 embryos also. But now the safety has become a priority. So either we transfer one good single embryo, which improves the pregnancy rates, and also the risk also reduced. Dr. Sujana will elaborate on the safety aspects of the drugs.
And difficult treatment and have fear about IVF. But nowadays the treatment is much safer and friendly. But by using friendly protocols, egg development has been reduced in number of visits to the hospital and reduced the days of taking injections. Injections are now available in highly purified form so that they can take themselves in subcutaneous route. One of the most possible medical complex with drugs is ovarian hyperstimulation, which is the main concern for the physician and for the couple. But now, by using friendly protocols, the risk has been reduced to the greater extent, and we are happy to announce that our clinical is a OHSS free clinic. Now, over to Dr. Anuradha.
Infertility is on the rising trend. We know there is a decline in the sperm count all around the world. And what we have observed is that even young women nowadays are showing that their ovarian reserve is falling. So that means the total number of eggs in their ovaries are much lesser than what we would expect for their age group. We don't know the reasons. It could be the stress, It could be the lifestyle factors, smoking, alcohol, sleep, lack of sleep, social attitudes. So we really are not sure, but there is a lot of decline in the sperm count as well as the egg count in the woman. So which is actually a bit of worrisome. On the whole, 10 to 15% of the couples face with this kind of problem of delay in conception, and 1 in 6 may have to see a physician for the treatment of infertility. We know IVF is a treatment with the highest success rate, but all do not need IVF. Most conceive with a simple treatment. And fertility journey may be long and tedious sometimes. Most give up too soon or resort for IVF too early. An appropriate treatment at an appropriate time, attempted with patience and perseverance, is what helps achieving success. IVF truly is a hope for many couples, and fortunately has become more accessible, safer, individualized, and with improved success rates. Thank you. If there are any questions in the audience, we might be able to answer if there is some time. Most often asked question is, what is the success rate in IVF? The pregnancy chances in each cycle in a good IVF is maximum 30 to 40% per cycle. Though only some conceive in one cycle, if you try multiple number of times, most do conceive. By the end of 3 or 4 cycles, we expect nearly 90% to conceive in some cycle or other. So it is important to have a perseverance and try more number of cycles rather than thinking, I will just do one cycle and if it works, it works. Otherwise, I don't want to go for any more. So one should be prepared for more cycles, which will definitely help achieving their success. Sophia, would you like to answer this question? How age matters? Does it make a difference in the success rates?
Yes, age does matter in IVF. If the couple is younger, the success rates are better. But then for elderly couple or for elderly age women also, or now because the marriage is also taking place a bit late, so IVF does have better chances. But if there are some medical problem, age-related problems, the success rates might come down. So if all good, the success rate is 40 to 45%. But then because of some medical problems and age-related problems, it might come down. But otherwise, if all good, even till 40 or 42, we can try IVF, and we have had successful pregnancies even beyond that.
Madhushree, a question for you.
Hi, Mrs. Sarita. I think Dr. Sophie has answered your question. I'm taking this question by Rajita Vijay. Till how many cycles can we try? Yeah, that's also being answered partially by Dr. Sophie. Actually, the success rate gets better with each cycle. So, a maximum number of cycles can be up to 4 to 5 as long as the women are producing good number of embryos. Because what ultimately matters is the genetic material. They want to carry their own thing. So, I think as long as they're responding well, you can just keep trying. Srinivas Rachapudi, are there any side effects? Yeah, actually, if you take a small tablet like paracetamol, it gives a list of side effects. So you can't even venture to take a simple tablet like paracetamol. But after having treated thousands of our patients, we actually drug-related side effects are very, very less. That much I can say.
I think the next question is how many cycles one can try? How many cycles? There is no limit.
Yeah,
it all depends on what the couple also wish. There are some situations when a physician thinks that going further in IVF cycles may not improve chances and is going to cause problems to the couple. That is when it should be stopped or thought of alternate treatments. But we have seen pregnancies happening in the 7th cycle, 8th cycle. And I heard about a patient conceiving in the 32nd cycle of IVF in Japan. So as long as the patient does not have problem with the drugs, they still stand a chance of success. They can try more number of cycles. We cannot number them and say that, okay, you should stop at this. But then definitely most conceive within 3-4 cycles of IVF. So next question, can you, Dr. Sophia, answer, please?
I will be answering, doctor.
Okay.
This is a question from the Mr. Kiran, whether the COVID pandemic IVF treatment is going on. Can be the patient has to take 2 doses of vaccine before going to the medication. Usually, we advise the patient to finish their second dose of vaccination, and after that 2 weeks of that, let them, if they can start their medication, that would be nice.
Yeah. It's good to have both the doses of vaccine before starting treatment, because that will at least give you protection. And nowadays, the recommendation is that you don't have to wait for a treatment after the vaccine. Within a couple of days of taking the vaccine, you can start your own treatment. So there is no relation between that. Safety is important, so one should completely be taking the vaccine and then starting the treatment.
There is one question on success rates of frozen embryo transfer. See, one first basically should understand the frozen embryos, they are as good as a fresh embryo. Once when you thaw it out, if the conditions are good, the survivability will be same, better, and usually you don't find much difference, maybe a difference of couple of percentage, but the frozen embryos also is good enough, will have a good enough success rate.
Madhusri, age limit for IVF, can you answer?
Yeah, actually that's already been answered by Dr. Sophia earlier to the same patient, I think. So there's actually no age limit. Even we have seen patients conceiving even at the age of 38. What matters is how much of egg reserve you have and how you respond to the given drugs. So as long you are responding to the given drugs, and but of course there are few caution at this point. Like once you cross 35, there is little bit of genetic alteration. So except for that, you can just try as long as you respond to the drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add few sentences to Dr. Madhusri. According to the ICMR regulations, 50 is the age limit for a pregnancy, taking infertility treatment. Earlier it was 45, now it has been extended to 50. But we know that after 35, the pregnancy chances is lower with either treatment. So after 40, one need to consider or discuss about the third-party reproduction, especially in those age groups. But the maximum age limit to what a woman can try is the age of 50. Thank you so much. Thanks to our team for trying to give such elaborate discussion on IVF and the infertility. And thanks to the audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, there's one more question. I think Prasad sir should answer.
Which one? How many hormonal injections?
It's regarding PGD.
Yeah, probably they mean PGD. Usually that is advised for advanced maternal age or repeated IVF failure patient couple with repeated miscarriages is mostly advised.
So thank you so much.
There is one more question. How many hormonal injections required for one cycle of IVF? Which could be nearly 8 to 10 injections.
The hormone injections depend on the response of the patient. The
Yeah.
That's also,
sooner,
yeah, what I mean, minimum that much is required.
Okay, I think one more question at the end. Maybe we can end after this. Mr. Nideshak, he's asking what can be the side effects or complications patients should be prepared for. Exactly. When somebody is taking hormonal injections, There could be minor side effects, there could be major side effects. The minor side effects are like any other drug, like headaches, giddiness, body aches, abdominal discomfort, backache, feeling dull, depressed. And the other problem is putting on weight. So one need to be careful with their diet and exercise before planning for a treatment. These are minor usual complications, but again, most do not complain of this. One of the major possible problem with the hormonal injections is thrombosis. That is formation of a blood clot in the blood vessel anywhere in the body, from brain to the toe, which is a very fatal problem. So that is the reason why we advise the patients to take plenty of fluids so that that will reduce the risk. But this risk is there for any woman, especially when they are taking contraceptive pills or during pregnancy. So there are some people who are predisposed to it. I would say that in the last 27,000 cycles of IVF we've done, we came across with three patients who had thrombosis. So they had to be treated. So, but then out of so many, three were to consider, how bad it is. There could be other complications related to the anesthesia, related to the procedure because it's a blind procedure. But again, most of the time the risks are very low. The only long-term side effect which everyone is worried about is the risk of ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and the breast cancer. Everyone has a risk of cancer at a later stage, but the recent studies of 2021 has shown that the risk of cancers have not increased because of the drugs. The only thing, the positive thing or the negative thing which was shown in the study is that there is an increase in the borderline ovarian tumor, but it's not a malignant one. It's actually a benign tumor, and because they're usually on a follow-up, most often it is recognized. And this is also risk which is very little. It's not a very high risk. So otherwise, the cancer risk is not high as compared to other people who have not taken any infertility treatment, unless there is a maternal history. There are some women who have a history of mother having breast cancer, uterine cancer, or ovarian cancer, and this actually could run in families, and then they have a higher risk. And that is when we need to limit the number of IVF cycles or stop or avoid those treatments. But otherwise, there is no major possible risk. But there are some people who come into high risk category. Then we warn them to avoid a treatment or think of some alternate treatments to reduce the risk. Thank you.
Oh, there's one more question. If we want to plan for treatment, this COVID season is the correct time to start. So I think you can start right away in case if you had already been vaccinated. Otherwise, get vaccinated because anyway, you're just trying taking the calculated risk by going for treatment without the vaccine, and with vaccine, you're much safer. Right away, if you had done with your 2 doses. Yeah, same.
Yeah, you can start taking soon after the vaccine. Maybe give a gap for a couple of days. So babies are as good as any other normal babies born through natural pregnancies. So we have seen 2 generations. We have seen babies having, the IVF babies having a normal baby on their own. So the health of the babies is almost the same as the normal babies. They're actually mentally and physically, there is no difference. And in fact, we've seen that they're somehow, maybe they're more active and better than other babies. That's what we have seen. But otherwise, we don't expect the risks or abnormalities higher after IVF treatment. For whom PGD is advised?
It's already been answered.
That mostly advanced maternal age, repeated IVF failure, and patient with recurrent miscarriages. I don't know whether this question is heard clearly. There was a funny question where one single sperm is good enough to fertilize 5 oocytes. The answer is no. Each oocytes require 1 sperm to fertilize.
I would like to thank the whole team who has been so helpful in giving such a great information, and also the rest of the staff of Untested Baby Center to cooperate with us to host this show. Thank you very much.